If you're planning to build a retaining wall on a slope like I am, you might think the hard part is stacking the blocks. But in reality, there's an equally hard part that comes before that. Welcome to PDX Garden Home. I'm coming to you from my driveway garden here in the Pacific Northwest, specifically Portland, Oregon. So what's the hard part of my garden wall project before even laying the blocks? It's the digging. And maybe it's even harder, but I don't want to overstate that because that's the phase of the project that I'm in right now. And it could, of course, just be recency bias. Today, I'm going to share my work and challenges on the garden wall project over the last couple of weeks, specifically what it actually takes to dig out this hillside, how much soil you'll move, and 3 things that I've learned along the way that could save you time, effort, and maybe a little bit of back strain. So come along with me and let's garden. More sunny day B-roll. The first thing I've learned in this project is about digging in wet clay. Here in Portland, especially in the wetter months, the ground doesn't just dig easily. If it's wet, it clings to the shovel. If it's dry, it's rock hard. Heavy, wet clay sticking to the shovel, building up on your boots, slowing everything down. There were days which each scoop felt like lifting twice the amount of weight that it should have been. And yet, this is the work that defines everything that is going to come after. Because if you don't take the time to dig all this out properly, nothing I build on top of it will be just right. To make the digging easier, I found there's a sweet spot where after it's been raining, it's still moist, but it's dried up a little bit. It's easier to cut through. You don't want it too wet, but you don't want to have that slop that's going to stick to your shovel. I want to get this done. So I haven't intentionally timed my digging, but rather I've just enjoyed the serendipity of an easier day when those conditions align just right for me. Can you believe it? A few days ago it was in the 40s, low 40s, and a rainstorm, and now it is almost hitting 70 degrees and just beautiful and sunny. Well, I'm back at it and building my retaining wall. I have dug out quite a bit of this stretch here. I've probably done maybe 8 yards of soil, dirt. No, I wouldn't call it soil, dirt, heavy clay from this hillside. I found a place to dump it economically, and a lot of this will get refilled once I get the next tier wall in. Then I'll backfill with gravel. So it's basically taking the clay out and then putting gravel in, because that'll have better drainage behind the wall and make the wall more structurally sound. There was a wall here before I started that had been built 20 years ago by whoever built this house, and it wasn't built properly. So there was no drainage behind it, no gravel, no pipe, nothing like that. And so after 20 years, it was failing. It was leaning over this way. So I'm going to do it in the best of my knowledge is the more proper way to do it, to keep the wall more structurally sound. because I'm going to be gardening up here. So I have a lot to hold up here. And yeah, and then I've got, this is a relatively new fig tree. I say relatively new because I have another one over there that's been there with me for at least 15 years. This one is only a few years old actually. And its roots have amazingly gone a lot of places. And unfortunately, I've had to cut the roots out in order to get here because my wall's got to come straight through here. So I'm going to make an attempt to do something that may not work, but I'm going to actually excavate right up to the tree, and I'm going to see if I can basically build my wall against it here and then backfill around it and see if it can survive. What I've noticed about the fig trees, both the one that I've had for 15 years and this one, is they're very vigorous in terms of putting out roots and surviving and being able to grow. So I actually am pretty bullish that I can mistreat it quite a bit here and it will survive and move on. I know no one, particularly gardeners, likes to see a tree mistreated. So turn off your turn off your video if you're concerned. Trigger warning that the tree is somewhat mistreated here as I'm trying to dig around it to get this wall in here. If it looks like it's just absolutely not going to work, then what I'll do is I'll try to dig down and get kind of the taproot and everything and then put it in a container that can allow me to transplant it to somewhere else later. It may be just moving it to a different kind of location within this area ultimately. So anyway, that's what I'm up to here, and I am gonna start doing some massive digging. Oh, the other thing I was gonna tell you all about, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got this roller thing on the back here, and there's actually like a really heavy duty tarp, and this was something I learned about. I was like, I spend over an hour here digging out a yard's worth, well, maybe it's more like 3/4 of a yard, half a yard to 3/4 yard worth of dirt, which I then throw into the back of the truck, and then I take to the dump site. And then I'll spend 45 minutes to an hour there unloading it, shoveling it out from the truck to the dump site. And I was like, what, is there a way to just dump this out of my truck faster? Or more convenient. And so I found this contraption. You can get them online at Amazon, but I didn't even want to wait for shipping, and they have them in stock and sell them at Harbor Freight hardware stores. So what this is it attaches to the back of your truck and it puts a heavy duty tarp along the bed, and you pile the dirt on top of that. And then when you go to unload, you roll this, you have a crank, there's a handle that will go in here, and you roll this thing up, and basically roll the tarp out, and it throws the dirt out the back. And I was skeptical. I'm like, this dirt's really heavy. Seriously, a tarp, I'm going to be able to like pull it on a tarp out the back of the truck? But I've done it twice now. So lo and behold, it actually does work. I mean, obviously if I fill too much, it's harder. So I'm going to be a little more conservative about my filling on there. And that means a little bit more money, because it's kind of like a truckload is $40 to dump no matter what, like whether I'm half full or all the way full, it's basically the same. So I have an incentive to fill the truck more financially, but I have an incentive on my back to maybe not do that and be able to use this tool. So this is pretty great. You'll see me kind of putting it out here, but then later perhaps I can share with you. I don't know if I'll do this or not, but anyway, you'll see me putting it out here. All right, well, that is the next step. I need to kind of put this out. I'm going to put some blocks behind the tires here because the truck is on a hill. I do have the emergency brake on or whatever, and then I'm going to do some digging. The second learning that I have from this project is to really consider the volume of dirt that you're dealing with. What really surprised me was how much dirt had to be moved. On a slope, you're not just digging down, you're cutting into the hillside, creating a level space where none existed before. I have moved well over 10 yards of dirt, and I estimate that at this point it'll be another 1 to 2 yards to finish this up. And that's not just a number. It's shoveling into the back of the truck, hauling to a dump site, unloading, and then doing it all again and again. Looking back, there's one thing I would seriously consider if I were to start again. That's renting a mini skid steer. I didn't go that route, mostly because I didn't really learn about it as a piece of equipment that I could use until I was already well into the project. But once you understand the scale of digging involved, it becomes a very different calculation. The mini versions of the skid steer machine allow you to walk behind them or ride, but it can be as narrow as 3.5 feet or so. We're not talking about the larger farm size equipment. This equipment actually is used in a residential scale. It's designed for smaller spaces. They typically have multiple attachments or the capacity for multiple attachments, but the one that you would use for something like this is the bucket. That bucket essentially allows you to scrape and dig as you move forward, and then you lift all that dirt up and it could be dumped into the back of my truck as an example. The purchase cost of a machine like that would have been cost prohibitive for this project, but renting it, which can be done from places like the Home Depot, among others, could have been possible. A machine like that could have taken days, even weeks of manual labor and compressed it down dramatically. It's not the right choice for every project. You have to consider the cost against the amount of time and wear and tear on your body that goes into all that manual digging. But if you have the option, it's something I would absolutely evaluate on the front end.
Whoa, what is it? It's like 33 degrees. Have I said that yet? It's only 33 degrees this morning out here. That's it's supposed to be spring. That's crazy. But I've got my wall project to work on, so another day, another round of digging. We'll see how it goes. You can see I'm getting close on this end here. What I'm trying to do with this is I'm trying to get, basically once I have the second wall in, I want to have a path that starts even with the driveway here and then goes all the way back to the other end of the deck there. Navigating this space has been a challenge, so I'm making it so that I can get in and out of the space for gardening is one of the keys to this project. You will see how it comes together. I'm putting so much effort into this. I hope and think that it'll come out quite well. We'll see as we go.
My third learning, which may really be two learnings combined into one, is about hauling and dumping all this dirt. Once you've dug out the dirt, the question becomes, what do you do with all of that? I naively started by wheelbarrowing at least a dozen loads to the front yard, back that way, where I figured I could just hold the dirt and then use it in landscaping out there, perhaps next year. But I wasn't good at envisioning just how much dirt really is here. It's way too much to be keeping on site. The front yard just isn't big enough to hold all of this. I found myself looking for cost-effective ways to dump the dirt, trying to avoid expensive disposal fees, and I still want to keep the project moving. I found a family-owned business in Aloha, which is on the far west of the Portland metro area. That place is called Woodco Fuel, and it will take clean fill dirt along with other yard debris for a fee. Right now, prices can change, but I'm paying $40 a truckload. The irony is that that's more than I will pay for the gravel and the compost that refills this hillside once I have the walls in place. But it's still less than I would pay if I were to dump this at the metro waste disposal stations. The bottom line to this part of the lesson is that when you're dealing with this kind of volume, it's better to have a plan for where you're going to dump the dirt before you just start digging. The second part of my learning regarding dumping the dirt is the use of a truck bed unloader. When I first started dumping the dirt from my truck, I would just get in the back of the truck and shovel that dirt out. That could take me half an hour to 45 minutes, depending on how energized I was. The thing that's made a real difference for me is a simple tool that I picked up from Harbor Freight. It's called a truck bed unloader. You can also get it on Amazon, I believe, different versions of it. The tool is not complicated, but it allows you to roll the dirt out of the bed of the truck instead of just shoveling it all by hand. And after a couple of hours of digging on this hillside, anything that's going to save me more from doing more shoveling is well worth it. The cost of this truck bed unloader is only like $65. It didn't eliminate all the work. There's still some manual horsepower that goes into that, but it made unloading so much faster and so much easier.
So this is what this contraption looks like rolled out on the bed. So it's a big tarp here. It's inevitable that are going to have some dirt on here, but I'm trying to avoid it just being totally caked with this dirt. So that's why I put the blue tarp down on top of it. I think it helps to have extra, and there's actually a lot of, this thing could go probably over the whole top of my cab here. So there's a lot of runway there, and I think it helps to have extra runway on this end, even though I'm not going to fill it. I'm going to fill it kind of to the top in the middle here, and then it'll kind of slide down there, and so it won't be stacked up there. But the reason why I want that extra slack is it feels like it's better that way rather than having the dirt potentially kind of slide off the back of the runway, so to speak. So I'm just tucking all the extra material, not all of it, but as much, I'm tucking some extra material back down here. But again, it's not all of it because I've still got more runway to go here that could be rolled out. I've still got more runway here that could be rolled out. So yeah, I probably like talking about this more than you like hearing about it, because I'm just so like impressed with the simplicity of this contraption, and it's the ratio of its simplicity to its utility is just amazing to me. Like when I find something like this, I'm just like, wow. And part of it is because I shoveled so much out of the back of the truck without using something like this that I feel the amazement of all the time and back effort I could have saved if I had been using something like this before. And there's the blue tarp laid out in the back there. So again, you know, it's not perfect. The dirt's gonna get in between it, underneath it. They're still gonna get dirt in there. But the idea is just to cut down on the sheer amount of mud that's caked onto my primary mechanism tarp here. And it's working okay. It's a little bit tricky when unloading it to get the tarp out of the way so it either doesn't get rolled up in the bar or doesn't get buried underneath the pile of soil that ends up at the end when you're done unloading it. But yeah, I think it's a good strategy.
Digging out a hillside, it isn't glamorous work. It's slow, repetitive, and often done in less than ideal conditions. But it's also part of the process, and it's going to shape what follows in this garden wall project. So, if you go into it understanding the scale, planning for the dirt, and choosing the right tools, it can become a lot more manageable. Thanks for gardening with me today, and I'll see you in the next video.